One of the best ways to prepare for mathematical conversations with our students is by anticipating students' thinking. When we try to imagine what our students might say, we prime ourselves to better hear, understand, and respond to their ideas. Let's look at this image of dominoes where we ask, what patterns do you see? And anticipate some of the many ways students might think about and answer that question. As students are beginning to examine and talk about this image, the patterns that they notice are going to have to do with the position of the numbers in the image or how they move across the image. When students are sharing, prompt them to be clear about what parts of the image they're paying attention to or how they're moving from number to number. They might find it useful to annotate a copy of this image or to come up to the screen and point out the particular features they're paying attention to or how they're moving. The first thing that students will likely notice is that all of the numbers from 1 to 6 are present in this image, and they can be counted in order if you move in a particular way. If you start in the bottom left corner and move up and diagonal in this zigzag fashion, you can count the numbers from 1 to 6 in order. That also means that in each domino, the top number is one more than the bottom number. Another way of thinking about that is that to go from the bottom to the top, you must add one, or to go from the top to the bottom, you must subtract one. What that means is that the difference between the top and the bottom is always one. Another consequence of that is that on the top are all even numbers, and on the bottom are all odd numbers. And these numbers are always separated by 2. So to move from one domino to the next domino, we always add 2, whether we're on the top or the bottom. Another way of thinking about that is skip counting, that on the top, we're skip counting by 2s, 2, 4, and 6. Another relationship students might want to examine is the relationship between the numbers on the diagonals. So for instance, here we have a pair of 2 and 3, which means that it's one more when you move down the diagonal. The same happens here, 4 to 5. It's one more. But if you look at the diagonals move in the opposite direction, the difference is different. Here we go from 4 to 1, we add 3. And if we move from 6 to 3, we also add 3. This might pose some interesting questions as to why the differences between the numbers on the two diagonals are different. Another relationship they might notice is the relationship between the sums in each of the dominoes. In this domino, the sum is 3. Here, the sum is 7. And here, the sum is 11. Those sums of 3, 7, and 11 themselves are skip counting by 4s. This also might present some questions about why that kind of pattern exists and why the sums are always odd. There are lots of different kinds of patterns embedded in this image, and these are just a few. I hope your students surprise you with some other interesting ones that they can see inside this image. And if you have access to dominoes, we encourage you to provide them to students for them to create their own structures and patterns and to analyze those that others make.